And good morning. I'm so happy to join you today for this live transmission on YouTube and possibly on the replay if you're watching it later or if you're listening to my podcast. Thank you so much for being there. I know that many of you enjoy these transmissions as we keep on receiving comments, and I absolutely love it. So please keep on liking, on sharing, and on commenting as well if you can, because it really warms up my heart to know that what I share benefits you so much. And this week we are talking about suffering, and is it possible that we are, as human beings, addicted to suffering? And yes, it is totally the case. It is because we are addicted to suffering that we keep on bringing it into our lives, and that it gets out of control, and that we also witness it in the collective, as every thought that we have, everything that we do has a huge ripple effect in the quantum, and therefore also an effect in our beautiful reality that we here co-create on Earth. Today, I would like to share from an angle that I don't often share about, but I thought, why not, because I actually really, really like it, and it's something that has changed my life. And today I will share about the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And when I was a little girl, my dad would read this to me quite often. And I did 3 different yoga teacher training, and I've always loved diving deep into this beautiful work, this philosophical work, as well as, of course, Bhagavad Gita and many other ancient scriptures from ancient India. And therefore, I would love to share about this from my own angle of understanding, knowing that, of course, there is a lot of literature out there. So I've got many books. I've got this one in French that I think I bought when I was maybe 16 or 17. It's been my Bible. And then I've got Yoga and the Luminous here from Christopher Key Chapel. And I also have a couple of other ones, but I just, took them back from the shelf and gave them life again, because I thought, oh, that's great. Actually, today I feel like I would like to share about the kleshas. The kleshas is the Sanskrit word for suffering, the causes of suffering. And so in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is on 2.2, if you have the Yoga Sutras, you can have that as reference. There are 5 different causes of suffering that have been identified. And I find that extremely relevant. So the first cause is actually the bigger umbrella of all of them. So it means that the next 4 ones can all relate to this first one. So if we can understand the first one really well and be very mindful and precise and have a lot of clarity about it, it means that it would be a lot easier for us to also heal and alchemize the other ones, and to have this awareness about them, so we don't go deep into them, therefore creating suffering from ourselves that is going to ripple in the world. So the first cause, the first klesha, first cause of suffering, according to the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, is called Avidya, which is ignorance or delusion. And it is literally a not knowing. So it is a lack of wisdom. It is a lack of understanding processes, of understanding the bigger picture. It is the lack of intellectual interest about educating ourselves about different subjects, especially about spiritual development and personal growth and so on. So when we are into ignorance and delusion, it means that we cannot open up our consciousness enough to understand that there are many different angles of perspective that can be taken to perceive certain experiences of reality. As each and every human is different, each and every human will have different perspective on understanding about certain things that we experience as the collective, for example. And that gets filtered through our belief systems, our fears, and so on. So ignorance really comes from not knowing that we have those in place ourselves, and not knowing that others also have that. And therefore, it is very easy to go into judgment and argument and separation templates. So when we start understanding that we create suffering because we are ignorant, it is possible for us to overcome that by simply realizing when there's simply information I'm not aware of, there's simply information about the situation I don't know, and therefore, do I really want to talk about it? Do I really want to go there? Or on the other hand, do I want to educate myself, or maybe simply actually ignore the situation because it really does not concern me at all, and there is nothing that I'm going to do about it? There's nothing I can do or change about it. So like, I'm just going to basically, cultivate my own happiness, cultivate my own line, stay my column of ascension, my pillar of light, and continue. And I'm going to keep on educating myself about the subject that are important to me. And so when we are really falling into this pit of feeling very much into suffering, or feeling that others are suffering too much, we can realize that everybody creates their own reality, and as harsh as it sounds, when things are shitty, very shitty, it's completely the case as well. And that therefore other people or ourselves, we create our suffering because we are ignorant that we do. And when we start reclaiming our power as powerful creator of our reality, as deliberate creators, then we stop being ignorant, because we know that what we think becomes. And therefore, we can pay very close attention to our thoughts and our emotion, and choose to rise them to a higher level of frequencies, so we can spread on more joy and hope and forgiveness and compassion and excitement and strength and courage and all of these things. So being really ignorant and living in delusion is really living in the delusion that we are victims, of what is happening, that we are not creators of our own reality. So here it is really about reclaiming our wisdom and our knowledge on how we actually create our powerful reality ourselves as powerful creator and creatress. So this first klesha is extremely potent, because every time we observe scenarios of suffering in our lives and in the lives of others, we can see that ignorance is at play, basically, because people are ignorant of each other's feelings, and they are also ignorant about the fact that they are creating this. They are encouraging suffering because they keep on feeling like that. So they identify completely with the subject of their own suffering. And it is explained with the next ones. So the second klesha in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali is called Asmita, and this is I-am-ness. So basically, it's like ego identification. It is really not being able to be the observer of our reality. So it's like identification with our ego completely. So if you are familiar with the architecture of the fractal that I teach, which is the round circle with the dot in the middle, we always teach that it's important to place ourselves at the center point of our fractal as the observer of our experience. Therefore, there is this distance created, this separation created between ourselves and our reaction, our thoughts, our emotion. And therefore, it shows that we can be the angel, allowing our human to have its own process. And so that is the presence behind this observer effect that is going to allow us to increase our level of consciousness, and that is going to therefore help us to create a better reality, because we don't identify with thoughts and feelings. We can change them as masters of our reality and masters of emotional and mental systems. So when this second klesha Asmita comes, it's really important to remember, wait a minute, it's like, okay, so I'm feeling all of these things, I'm thinking all of these things, but can I observe myself thinking this? Can I observe myself feeling this? And as soon as we do that, there already, like, the density of the reaction, the density of the emotions, density of the thoughts tremendously decreases. Because it's like, if I am not the one thinking this and feeling this, who is? And very often it's just a fragment of ourselves. It could be an inner child, it could be past wounds from past lives or ancestors' trauma, but we realize it's not me. That's not the eternal presence of God's self within this physical body that's feeling that, or that's saying that, or that's thinking that. That's another fragment, that's another part of me. And this part of me is as beautiful and perfect as every other part of me. So how can I love this part? How can I be there for myself? How can I not judge myself and simply allow myself to process this? So it's not, we are not in bypassing anything here. We're not in denial either. We are observing, we are holding space, but we are not identifying. So that is the second one. Second cause of suffering is ego identification, this I-am-ness. The third one is raga, and that is attraction, a need to take, which really comes from memories of pleasure. That relates to all addictions, but it also relates to very strongly materialistic life, that we live into. And of course, it's completely okay to choose to have a beautiful environment that is healthy, that's got the luxuries that we love, and so on. But here we talk about, again, ignorance around that, which is the Avidya. Avidya and Raga together really shows that we don't know that consuming too much of this substance is going to be bad. Or if we know, then raga comes so strongly that it's like literally a magnetic pull. We just can't stop eating the chocolate. We just can't stop until a bottle of wine is finished, and we just can't stop having a glass of wine every night. And we might find all sorts of justification about it, but it is still an attraction. This is a cause of suffering. And here, it is very strongly the case for toxic relationship. If you're in a toxic relationship, you know that you just like this magnet that keeps pulling you in. There is an attraction there, and that causes suffering. And because there is a memory of pleasure, the amount of time I hear some of my girlfriends saying, oh, he can also be like this. And that time we had this beautiful moment, when actually there are with people that really treating them badly. And continuously, that's what I witness. They are being treated badly and just don't stand up for themselves because they are completely in this template of suffering from this raga, from this attraction, especially if there's sexual attraction, which also brings even more distortion. So if we are to reclaim our power, we have to realize, okay, so here there's this attraction to this person. Is it healthy or is it not healthy? If it's not healthy, that is a cause of suffering. So I'm going to remove myself from this and be courageous and reclaim my power. If it is very healthy, then that's good, For example, I'm very attracted to go swim in the sea, and I love to go very often, but every now and then I catch myself feeling guilty because I don't go. And that's different, because that is a cause of suffering, because then there is kind of like a forcefulness into this need to do it, this raga, this need to take. The sea is there, I should be swimming every day. And that's actually like the angle of this comes from lower frequencies, and therefore it creates suffering. So this is very potent one, yes? So first one is avidya, ignorance. The second one is asmita, ego identification. Third one, raga, the need to take, attraction. Now the fourth one, dvesha, is aversion, repulsion, hatred. It's like automatically saying no. And when we are in the third one, raga, it's like we tend to get out, like we want it. It's like this magnetic pull. We just can't have enough of it, and it becomes very toxic. And therefore, there's a lot of suffering coming from that. The other dvesha is the opposite. Like we say no, we have too many walls, very strong, distorted boundaries. It's, for example, the ones that would be single for ages because they cannot allow anyone into their heart because they have been broken before. Again, that comes from the same as raga, from memories of the past. So raga is a memory of the past that was really pleasurable. And so we want it more and more and more and more, even if it's distorted. And the first one is memory from the past, that we have suffered so much that we need to have all of these walls around us. And that's a strongly, that creates suffering, because we don't allow ourselves to receive the flow of the universe. And then that can be the case around love, like romantic relationship, friendships as well, like we've suffered, we've been bullied, or like we've always struggled to have friends or whatever. And now it's like we just keep this. Like this automatic saying no, a version of repulsion is kind of like, oh, not good enough. I think this person could hurt me. Maybe this person is not high vibe enough. Or look, I'm an empath, and so I cannot connect with all of them because, I could, be low on energy. All of that is aversion. All of that is create suffering because it is preventing us from connecting. It is preventing us from connecting to others. It is preventing us from connecting to abundance as well. A lot of people that live in scarcity, it's because that's very strong. It's, for example, like the broken healer syndrome. Like, oh, I'm a healer, so it means I cannot earn money. Why? It's like freaking distorted. That's an outdated paradigm, dude. It's like, of course you can receive money. I mean, like, you need to be able to maintain your energy. To maintain your energy, you need to receive money, so you don't have to worry about it. So you can actually work on meditating, work on yourself, receive healing yourself. So it means that you can upgrade yourself and therefore serve many more people. So a lot of people, they have this Dvesha that is completely distorted, and therefore creating all of this suffering in their life where they don't need it. It's the same as, like, I don't know, like a friend could come and could say, oh, there you go. Like, I've got $5,000 to give you because I just feel like it. So many people would say, oh, no, I cannot accept, Why? If this person really wants to give you something, Like, I've had to learn to receive gifts because more and more people give me gifts, and I'm super happy. A lot of jewelry. So many of my friends give me jewelry. I love receiving flowers. And it's just so nice because sometimes it's just people like literally listening to things like this, and they've been listening for a while and they feel like they want to give me a gift. And so they ask for my address, and I'm like, oh, that is so nice. Yes, thank you. And they just send me a gift. And I had to learn that because before I would be like, oh no, like it's really not necessary. I don't do it for that. Until I realized I'm preventing abundance from flowing in my life, and I'm preventing others from feeling happy to give back to me because I gave a lot. Okay? So observe in your life where you could say automatically no from receiving from help. And if it comes from like this Dvesha aversion, and this is also strongly linked to Asmita, the second one of ego identification. For example, ego identification that I suffered from a lot in my life, which was like the broken single mom syndrome. And that was so strong. I was like, nobody can help me. Nobody needs to help me. I can do it by myself, but I'm constantly broke. And it was like all of these distorted templates of suffering until I removed this ego identification. It's like I don't identify as that any longer. I don't even identify actually as single mom because my kids, I actually share custody, and it's not completely being single mom. And yeah, whatever, I don't identify with anything like that. So observe all the ramification between all of them. And I'm going to give you the last one. So you can actually use this transmission as a little workshop, After this, write them down. I will write them down in the comment here, in the little description on YouTube, and also in the description on the podcast. So it is written there. Have a little workshop and say, how is this playing in my life? How is this playing in my life? Allow yourself to have light bulbs, aha moments, and downloads. Think about it as you walk. Think about it as you cook. Allow yourself to open up your consciousness so you have more information about yourself. And then you can choose. You are not so much in ignorance and delusion. You have already Avidya. You have already transcended the first one on many layers until more will come. Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? And then we have the last one. The last one of the causes of suffering, according to the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, is Abhivinesha. And Abhivinesha is the desire of continuity, clinging onto life. And that one in itself, I just stayed with it, like honestly, for years. When I was younger, and I would, continuously come back to this ancient scripture that have always talked to me so much, spoken to me so much. So Abhivinesha is I would really go into the depth of understanding that suffering are actually caused because people are afraid to die. And if they only knew that dying is actually beautiful, it's perfect, it can be done in love. And yes, even if the person is going through a disease, an illness, and like a lot of suffering or accident in their body, the ultimate transition can happen with so much love and blessings and unity consciousness and connection with the self and connection with loved one around, that it can be the most beautiful moment in one's life to finish like this. And if only human would know that, they would not be afraid to suffer, they would not be afraid to live, because there is nothing to be afraid of, because yes, death is just there and it's beautiful. And so therefore it would decrease tremendously the amount of suffering that we put ourselves into because we don't want to die. And therefore we're clinging on to life, we're taking all of this medicine, we're doing a lot of these things to avoid death at all costs. And as soon as I was a little girl, I can't even remember when I started thinking about it. It's like, I don't understand this. It's really bizarre, because for me, I've always seen death as the beautiful transition, beautiful liberation. And of course, I don't mean that it's not sad, to live love, to lose loved ones. I know what it's like. I lost my mum, and of course, I don't say it's pleasurable at all. But there is this Abhivinesha, this life klesha, is not only caused by the clinging on to life in terms of rejecting death. It's clinging on to life in terms of not accepting change. So change is the only constant. Things change constantly. And because now we are in the great awakening process and accelerated timelines are unfolding, it is very very difficult to be able to stay the same and to keep the same life. And it's just going to keep on changing like that, for the next couple of years, 10 years, and so on. So we just have to learn to let go, and not cling on to anything at all. We don't cling on to our furniture, we don't cling on to our plants, we don't cling on to our pets, we don't cling on to our children, we don't cling on to our friends. And that's very challenging. But that is non-detachment as well, which is another, a beautiful philosophical passage here in the Yoga Sutra that I'm not going to go into that. And it's the desire of continuity really that creates suffering. It's like, I wish my children would stay little all their lives. And I wish that this would never change. And I understand that. And I would love to invite you, when you have beautiful moments like that, to instead go into the template of creating suffering for yourself and others by, I don't want it to end because it's so beautiful, is to simply be so freaking present in the moment that you are absorbing the experience with all your senses. So it will never go away. It will always be there within you. So you smell the smells of nature, or like food being cooked in this moment when the family sit at the dinner table and you're loving this moment. And you like, what does it smell? And you really focus on the smell and you say, like, my cells are going to remember it. And then you simply allow yourself to perceive all the sounds and the noises and the voices in the room. And you really absorb them. It's like, my cells, they're going to remember it. And you do that with the feelings. What is that? What are the clothes that you're wearing? What is the light outside? What is the weather? And, like, just imprint this in your being with so much gratitude that you are literally in the full presence of this perfect moment, but you do not cling on to it because you know that it's going to pass. Also, we do not cling on to negative things because they will also pass. When we cling on to the negative things, we keep on perpetuating them. So it means that we keep on perpetuating suffering. So if we think that, oh, I always get the flu, around winter, or like, it's always like that for me, or like in my family, everybody's got heart diseases or whatever. It's like we're clinging on to something there. It's like, actually, that's not the case at all. We don't need to cling on to that. that's not us right now. Us right now, we're a healthy, vibrant, beautiful being. And it doesn't mean that it happened in the past, that it's still gonna happen now. So we don't need to cling on to anything at all. When we cling on to anything, it shows that there are holes inside of ourselves that come from other suffering as well. It could be, like ignorance. It could be ego identification with the inner child. Inner child was so sad and broken before, and so therefore it feels like it needs to cling on to belongings from childhood. Like my siblings, they kept all the furnitures from mom and our ancestors. Like literally, the house is like hoarders. I just freak. Like that's the biggest cling on to life. Is like such an identification with belongings, It's like, I don't have that. It's like nowhere in me, literally. Like I've got nothing at home that I'm gonna get rid of like tomorrow. Yes, I might be a bit sad, for certain things. I'll be like, oh, love it. Mm-hmm. But that's just I'm gonna hold space for myself so much. And I don't say that I don't have my things, I just don't have that. I just don't have that one. So I hope that this helped. Use this today as a workshop. So you can take a pen and paper after this transmission, write things down, or do it later. And also during the day, next couple of days, simply stay with it. Think about it. So I'm just going to repeat one more time. So this transmission is inspired by the one and only book, the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And here I talk about the kleshas, the causes of suffering, according to Patanjali. And this is chapter 2.2. Okay, and the 5 causes of suffering according to Patanjali are Avidya, ignorance; Asmita, ego identification; Raga, which is attraction, a need to take. The 4th one is Dvesha, aversion, repulsion, hatred, saying no, too much. And the last one is Abhivinesha. And Abhivinesha is a desire of continuity, clinging on to life, trying to preserve an order when change is the only constant. I would love to hear from you how it goes as you reflect on this. And if you like to study like this, you can always join me during Pathway 1 of Soul Alignment, when we'll go very deep on discovering so much more of different pathways that are going to help us to find greater level of soul alignment, so we can be vibrant, we can end the relentless creation of suffering in our lives and in the collective, to once and for all truly step in our power to anchor 5D frequency within ourselves and on beautiful collective and on the planet. I love you very much, and I thank you for watching. I will see you tomorrow for quantum healing. Bye.